Welcome back to Fantasy Football RPG, your go-to source for all things fantasy football. Join us for expert analysis, top strategies, and the latest insights to help you dominate your league. Let's level up your game and dive into the nitty-gritty. Without further ado, let's get into action.
All right, guys, we got a little bit of an emergency episode tonight. A Dynasty darling has been killed. A Dynasty, let's say that we haven't loved him that much, has risen to being exciting.
And now it's time for news and notes.
The Carolina Panthers, in all of their glory, spent the number 46 overall pick on Jonathan Brooks back in April and May. And now they've decided to extend Chuba Hubbard on a 4-year, $33.2 million extension, which makes him top 10 paid at the position. David, what is happening?
I wish I had an answer for that. Now, first off, congratulations, Chuba Hubbard. You're set for life. Your grandkids are set for life. And let's be honest, you're having a great season. I think he's like the RB9 in standard right now. He's made the most of his opportunity, and having nobody of note certainly helps. But like, the advanced metric shows he's having a good year. Is he the 9th best running back in football? I don't think so, but he's a starting caliber back, and he deserves praise for that. Like, he's more than just a 4th-round pick who got an opportunity.
Yes, I think there's two different ways to look at this. One, good for Chuba Hubbard, good for his situation. He's locked into this, but we can talk about it from like a fantasy spin in a little bit. I want to talk to you about like a team building perspective. So you are the Carolina Panthers. Listen, I thought their offensive line was garbage. I was going back and looking at it after talking to some folks on Twitter. Like, the offensive line has improved this year. It's just the quarterback play makes it look dreadful. So they could have used this on literally any defender, and it would have made their defense better. They could have used this pick on basically anything other than Jonathan Brooks, and it would have made a little bit more sense. Like, are the Panthers trying to do a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs thing here? But, like, is that going to work for the Panthers?
Yeah, so it's hard to really understand from a team building standpoint why you would do this. The Carolina Panthers, as you mentioned, they did fix their offensive line. So Dan Morgan, great job. He really turned it around. All the free agent signings were hits. Ekwonu, he's come a long way. There is blocking there. A quarterback can succeed. But then you look at the next big problem. Like, the Panthers went into the offseason knowing they had too many flaws to fix. They focused on fixing the offense, but they did it at the expense of the defense. Brian Burns is gone. Jadeveon Clowney was nothing more than a Band-Aid, and they don't have anybody else. Normally, when you look at bad teams like Carolina, you think, well, they can just burn money in the offseason, fill up a bunch of holes. The Panthers don't have that much cap space, and it's strange to me to devote what little resources you do have into giving a running back more than I'd have to imagine he would have got on the open market. And, you know, when you have a 2nd-round pick, top running back in his class right behind him, and again, I know this is a bit of a, depends on where you land, film versus analytics, but running backs aren't the most important position in the world. Like, I don't care that you have a young quarterback. It's just if the goal is how do I support my quarterback, be it Bryce Young, if you still believe in him, or whoever they draft in 2025, that money could get you a halfway decent wide receiver. I'd probably rather have that.
Well, they have Xavier Legette. They have Jalen Coker.
I mean, yeah, those two, like, they've shown promise. Jatavian Sanders is another one, but like, how much of that is just there's nobody else there?
I think that's my issue. And then my issue is just also on the other side of the ball. So I'm looking at 2024 points allowed. The Los Angeles Chargers are first in the league, 12.6. Pittsburgh Steelers are at 14.9 per game. The Carolina Panthers are dead last, more than 4 points per game allowed than the 31st team, and more than double both the teams I've already named. Like, they need a lot of help to be contenders. Like, this rebuild is going to continue to take a while, and like, they need to hit on a quarterback. They need to hit on a couple of receivers. They need to hit on an edge rusher, corners, safety. Like, there's nothing to build around on defense. And then on offense, if they want to make this their identity, that's fine. They're going to need to control the clock, limit turnovers, which are things they can't do with their quarterback room right now. Let's flip the script a little bit. Let's talk about redraft perspective first. Is there any hope for Jonathan Brooks for the rest of the season?
Probably not. I wrote an article this morning that published roughly 5 seconds before Hubbard got the extension and made a sizable chunk of it completely invalid. But
Perfect.
always works that way, doesn't it? But basically, in that article, I argued that Brooks was supposed to. He tore his ACL in college. We knew he wasn't going to be ready for much of the offseason, but he was supposed to come back and at least be practicing late in August. That clearly never happened. He fell far behind the initial timeline. He was activated and he was practicing, and you were wondering if he was even going to be activated once they opened that 21-day window. If he does play, he's supposed to play week 10. Even before the Hubbard extension, I wasn't expecting a big role, at least in the short term. And frankly, in the long term, as far as the 2024 season's concerned down the stretch, I'd be surprised if he had become anything more than just a complimentary, just kind of the 1B to Hubbard's 1A was his ceiling for this year.
Yeah, I think they've shown that they're going to be more than cautious bringing him back, which makes a lot of my best ball picks look pretty silly. I was like, oh, high draft capital, all the reports are he's going to be ready by week 5, week 6. I'll take that. But Hubbard's outplayed a lot of running backs this year, has shown that he's competent. So I think Hubbard is probably locked and loaded RB2 option most weeks. And then Brooks, you're talking about a desperation flex, or let's say Hubbard goes down. They're trying to be cautious with him. You're going to see an increased workload for Miles Sanders, which sounds disgusting to say out loud. From a dynasty perspective, so I think team-wise, this is great for Hubbard. He's in the system. He has a coaching staff that believes in him. He could have gone somewhere else and probably been the guy. He goes to Dallas, he's the guy. He goes to New England, he can maybe compete with Ramondre. He goes to, I'm just literally rolling down the list right now. The Bengals.
Minnesota needs a long-term answer, Aaron Jones.
Yeah, they're with Aaron Jones, age 30. If he goes to the Bengals, he can fight with Zach Moss if he ever recovers, Khalil Herbert if he sticks around, or Chase Brown. There were other options for him to go be the guy, or the Las Vegas Raiders. We've been throwing them out as a trade candidate forever. But there's all of these teams that need a guy, and he could be that. And now it's going to be a gross timeshare on a bad offense. I think dynasty value, Hubbard's has gone up, but the ceiling is capped long term. And I think Brooks, unless the offense starts scoring points, it's not going to be fruitful for 2 running backs, and I don't know if Brooks is going to be that one.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, are the Panthers trying to do a David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs thing? I think to an extent they are. Carolina seems to be one of those teams that values running backs more than your average team. But the problem with trying to be David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs is that, one, you don't have a quarterback. Jared Goff is playing pretty well, but he's not a superstar. It's still a hell of a lot better than what they have now. And number 2, you don't have Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson's a fantastic offensive mind. All due respect to Dave Canales, he's not that. So there's 2 things right there that are really limiting just how good this duo can be. So I'm sticking with you, Hubbard. He's a guy I want to roster deeper leagues. Dynasty-wise, I'm probably keeping him around as top 30, 35-ish running back. And Brooks, this really hurts him for me.
I don't even know how to project Brooks moving forward. I felt pretty confident about him pre-draft. I saw the writing on the wall with Hubbard. I was like, oh, he's a free agent after this year. Miles Sanders is dust. This is going to be his backfield in 2025. And now it's maybe a handcuff, maybe the 1B. Maybe he does move into the 1A, but it's going to be gross to try and figure out which weeks to start him, and you're never going to feel confident about it.
Yeah. And the length is what really worries me. If this was just, hey, Jonathan Brooks, the injury's taken longer to come back from than we thought, let 2024 be his red shirt year, 2025 glorified rookie year, and then 2026, it's all him. If this was a 2-year extension, I wouldn't be too worried. But this is 4 years, and I haven't really looked into the structuring of it, but just the fact that 4 years is on the table at all, that's worrisome to me. Will Hubbard and Brooks become free agents at the same time? Is this going to be a thing we'll have to worry about for the duration of his time in Carolina?
Yeah, I'm trying to get any of the details on it. I don't think they're released yet. But
to the best of my knowledge, they haven't leaked yet. But
we really want to see. So there's only $15 million in guaranteed money, which maybe they front load that, and there's a chance for an early out. But mean, Hubbard's young enough, he can stick around for the full 4 years and just be an annoying pain in the butt for fantasy football. I think this is just a backfield to avoid until we get excited about the offense.
And from a workload standpoint, Hubbard, you mentioned he's a younger guy, so he does have a chance to live those 4 years out. He also really didn't get much of a workload until this year. Yes, past few seasons, it's been CMC gets hurt, he comes up late. Miles Sanders starts the year terrible in 2023. Hubbard's the starter for the back half. But I mean, by a running back standards, he hasn't touched the ball all that much. There should be a bunch left in his tank.
Yeah. I wonder how well this is going to age for the team. Like, let's say that they finally hit on a quarterback. Let's say that they hit on a receiver in the draft. Like, all of a sudden the offense gets exciting and maybe it's a CJ Stroud Texans turnaround. I think the difference is from a team success standpoint, they don't have the defensive structure to support it. So maybe it turns into a gold mine for fantasy. I'm not betting on that. Do you have any other thoughts on the Chuba Hubbard experience?
I mean, he's Chuba Hubbard. How excited can you possibly make me? If in the short term, like, we do see backfields that have two running backs that are stable. Those teams have quarterbacks. Carolina doesn't. Maybe if Carolina lands one of the quarterbacks that end up being good in the draft class, then one of the guys turns into a solid play for the next few years. Full disclosure, I haven't looked too closely at the quarterback draft class. I don't have takes I stand behind yet.
Yeah.
So, maybe Carolina gets lucky, but if they don't, this is going to be one of those things where you roster both of them. If one gets hurt, the one that stays healthy becomes a pretty viable play. But other than that, it's just going to be gross.
Yeah. Well, hey, I want to listen or hear from our listeners. We really appreciate all the feedback that we've been getting. If you guys like these quick little news segments, let us know. Comment below. Let us know who you think the starter is going to be in 2025. And by starter, I mean who gets the majority of the touches, Jonathan Brooks or Chuba Hubbard. If you like it, like, subscribe, comment, and maybe I can convince David to hang out with us a little bit more. But that does it for this week. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at FFRPGPod and at FFMikeCash with a K. Don't let the goblins get you. We'll see you next week.